we've seen a lot of these installs go very, very well, very smoothly on site, and get plants up and running faster, because that boiler room install can start before the building's even constructed now. Obviously, as rental units, we see these things a lot. There are certain contingency situations where you maybe only need a boiler for a short time. So you could either rent it or buy a boiler to be put into a container. And then when you're done with it, now you can sell that on the market. It's a resellable asset at that point. But really, I think why would somebody want to own one? Well, it's redundancy in an outage. So if you work for a company or facility that has multiple sites, multiple different boiler rooms, whether they're hot water boilers or steam boilers, low pressure or high pressure steam, it really doesn't matter. If you have a number of these pieces of fired equipment that could shut your operation down, then it may be worth considering owning your own backup asset. Or in some cases, we actually see new boilers that are going to be permanently installed get put into a container ahead of time for a number of reasons. One major advantage is then in a fabrication facility, the boiler and the supporting equipment can all be installed, and even in some cases full fire run tested prior to shipping it to site. And so in those cases, then your site work is significantly lowered, because you can just set the container and hook up power and water and blow down and whatever, and really be off to the races, because your commissioning cycle is so much shorter, and there's a lot less electrical connections and things to do. The other thing is there could be a situation where you could put the new boiler in a container outside, and that frees up the old boiler room as floor space for whatever your process may be, that you can reclaim that real estate. Another advantage could just be the serviceability. So when we put equipment like this into a container, then we can oftentimes cut in access doors all around the outside of that container that would allow you to bring a forklift right up next to it or something of that nature, so that you can get equipment in and out of that container boiler room essentially very quickly and easily. The big caveat that we have to talk about, though, is getting permission from your local authority having jurisdiction. There's oftentimes rules about how much access and clearance we need around boiler equipment, and that's obviously very important for maintenance reasons. Sometimes these rules are waived for portables, and that's okay if it's a temporary install. But if you want to put a container like this and install it as a permanent install, then you'll definitely want to have some conversations up front with that local or state boiler inspector to make sure that you're following all of their requirements. And they may give you some relief as far as the access around a boiler if you do have appropriately placed access doors in the container. There's no guarantee. Definitely make those phone calls before you start buying equipment, but we've seen a lot of these installs go very, very well, very smoothly on site, and get plants up and running faster, because that boiler room install can start before the building's even constructed now, if the boiler and the equipment is being skidded and then shipped in after the building is in place to set adjacent to the building or set inside the building, if you want to have that container then function as a lockable boiler room. We see people do all kinds of kind of neat and creative things, and it works out really well.